Hey everybody, what is up? It's Dr. Vibe here, saying you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. I'm the host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show. I'm also the host and producer of the weekly Black Men's Roundtable, Do You Know What Time It Is, which is on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can also catch me once a month at the Good Men Project as host and co-producer of their monthly Google Hangouts for premium members. We have a very special guest on today from Lagos, Nigeria. And one of the prevalent stories that has been in the news is the abduction of 265 kidnapped Nigerian girls by the terrorist group. And we're going to look a little bit into more of that story this afternoon. And we have Ijeoma Ogwuegbu-Uduma. I hope I got that right. I'm trying my best. And she is a journalist who lives in Lagos. She was working as a journalist for 8 years. Now she pursues writing and stage full-time. She joined the Bring Back Our Girls protests in Lagos after it became apparent the Nigerian government had little intention of doing anything to find the missing Chibok girls. So actually we just lost her. Oh my goodness. Let's see if she can come back on. Okay, we're just waiting to see if we can get Ijeoma back on. All right. Oh, there. I'm hearing something in the background. Ijeoma? There she is. Ijeoma, can you hear us? Ijeoma, can you hear us? Okay, well, looks like we're having some technical difficulties here. If we don't get her back in the next minute or so, we are going to probably do this via phone. So just bear with us for just a moment, and we'll see if we can get her back. If not, we'll do this via phone. So let's just see if we can get her back on the line. As all of you know, this has become very much a frontline story in the news over the last week or so. Initially, it was a not very much covered story, but now it's become quite a popular story from all around the world, and governments now are doing what they can to have these girls rescued by the terrorist group. Okay, it looks like she's coming back on one more time. We'll see if we can get her back. Hey, Ijeoma, are you with us? Okay, good.
Yeah, I am.
Patience is a virtue, so we have you back on. We have you back on. I just finished doing an introduction in regards to the story, and just saying that you're live with us from Lagos, Nigeria, and just wanting, before we get started, just a little short background about yourself, and then we'll get into the story. So, are you Nigerian born?
Yes, I am. I was born and brought up in Lagos, Nigeria. And yeah, I was a journalist for 8 years before I left that to write full time. So that's what I do now. I'm a writer. I write for TV and the stage.
Okay, great. So let's get a little background on what actually happened. Like, what have you heard compared to what we've heard here in North America? What actually happened with this kidnapping? How did everything happen with this situation?
What we've heard from multiple sources is that the young women their school had been closed originally because all schools in that area had been closed because of the Boko Haram attacks that happened in Borno State and also in Yobe State. There was a previous one in February in Yobe State where 40 young boys were murdered while they were in boarding school. And this led to the closure of practically all the secondary schools in Borno State. But then I think what happened was that they had the last exam they were supposed to write, which was a physics page. School decided to reopen. Now, apart from the students from that school, there were also what we call private students, students from not government schools, non-government schools, private schools, who, because this opportunity arose to write their final paper, also joined the students of government girls secondary school in Chibok in Borno State to write that final paper. So, and it was in the middle of the night. I think they were, and then some other young women who weren't even writing the exam because there was light in that school at the time also came there to read, overnight with their friends. So there were a lot of young women there, with their teachers when the terrorists came into their school and pretended to be, initially told them that they were soldiers and that they were in danger and they were there to take them to a safer location. So these young women, of course, bearing in mind what they had already been through up to that point, were actually very happy to see who people they thought were the military coming to save them. I think when the young women realized that something was wrong was when the militants burnt down their school after heading them onto the trucks they brought. That was when the young women realized that something bad was going on. Most of this, of course, we've heard from the young women who managed to escape. 53 of them who have come back essentially told us what happened that night.
Excellent. I want us to get, if we can, a conversation, because a little bit of background on the organization Boko Haram, the organization that's abducted these young ladies. What can you tell us from a Nigerian perspective about Boko Haram?
What we do know is that the organization started in 2000, between 2000 and 2002. And when they started, they were what you would consider a community organization, community-based organization who gave help to their neighbors, um, send their children, help send their, they built the neighborhood where these children used to go to. So they were an ultra-conservative group, but they were what you would consider harmless at that point, because all they did was, yes, there was a lot of rhetoric around them with regards to the government, what they thought the government wasn't doing right, but they were a very secluded group who just kept to themselves, kept what you would call a sect, as it were, at that time. So, and they had this compound where they lived with their children, with their families. It was within this compound that they built the school they built. They generally helped the people in their community. When things changed was when they got into a confrontation with the government, when the government decided that they felt that they were somewhat of a threat. So the government went in and tried to shut them down, and in the process, 700 people were killed. This is where it was at this point that everyone felt that the tide turned with regards to Boko Haram. This was when they then started becoming violent.
So how long has the Boko Haram been in existence for in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's what I'm up to this time.
Okay, so are they a strong force? Are there a lot of members? Does anyone know how many members? Has their membership been growing over the last few years?
That's one of the things. I'm not sure anybody knows how many exactly they are, because they are the kind of organization that, I mean, they don't wear badges. They don't, and since they've been in confrontation with the government, we found a situation where, rather than how they were in the beginning, where they all lived in one camp, now you have what you consider cells, small cells that live in neighborhoods where sometimes you don't even know they're there. So talking about their numbers, I'm not sure anybody has an accurate figure of what exactly their numbers are.
Okay. And so when this event initially happened, what was the initial reaction of the Nigerian government to this abduction?
To ignore it.
You're kidding.
To ignore it. Yeah, no, to ignore it, which was why, to ignore it, to pretend it didn't happen.
Now, because
Which was
go ahead.
why what off. We've had Boko Haram has essentially been terrorizing the nation since 2009 in terms of bombings and assassinations. Even though it's been mostly in the north, but the north is still practically half of the country. So, and we as a people got to a point where you became numb to the stories of bombings and people being killed. But you always felt like maybe there was something going to happen that would make things change. Maybe the government was going to take it seriously. Yes, the government told us that they were doing their best. At a point, forgive me for saying this, a George Bush mission accomplished moment when he told us we've driven them to the fringes. So we all felt like maybe the government was going to turn around the situation. And for a time, it did seem like the government was in control of the situation. But then the news broke of this, and we had not there. We might be in the minority because Nigeria is a country of 170 million people, but we are a very vocal bunch up there. So, and in the past, the government has had its spokespeople who interact with people on the online, and whether for good or for bad. But the situation we found was that there was complete silence. It was like it didn't happen. Because usually what we would have was that the government agents would say has given a press release to say sorry to the families. You know, that sort of almost normal. But in this case, there was no response. It was like it didn't happen, which was why that was what sort of pushed a lot of people over the edge to say, I mean, with the ones where people have been bombed and people have died, I mean, there's not much you can do for the dead. But here we've heard that these young girls have been kidnapped, and there's a sense that they are somewhere within reach. And okay. The government was acting like.
Well, I don't want to be too sensitive here because I know that I don't know if you're free to make commentary in regards to the government actions, but let me ask, when did the government start paying attention to this story or this incident, or have they still not paid enough attention to it?
They only started paying attention to it when it became an international phenomenon, which is why we keep asking people to keep talking about it, because our government is a very they are very conscious of what other people think of them. They might not care too much about what we think of them, but they are very conscious of what the world thinks of them, because they are big on bringing investors into the country. So they're very conscious of what other people think of them. So when it went beyond the shores of Nigeria, when it wasn't just, because when it was, when they were protests in Nigeria, both online and on the streets, found it very easy to rationalize it by saying that it was their opponents who were doing this. It was the opposition who was organizing protests and arranging this. There was, and even up to now, there's still a narrative with this that is not real. So yeah, so it was only when it went beyond the shores of Nigeria last week. This happened about a month ago. It was only last week that the president finally addressed it.
So you're a firm believer that if the international governments around the world did not pay attention or start paying attention to the story, that the Nigerian government would have not paid any attention?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And we feel like we had a part in making sure that our people, our own people, were also aware of it. Because, I mean, the first rally we went to on the 1st of May, even some people on the streets didn't know what was happening. Even some people on the streets. So being able to get even our own people sensitized and aware of what had happened to galvanize people outside of the country, which essentially all of that, we were able to use that to put pressure on the government. We are very sure that if none of that had happened, it would have just been business as usual. The government was prepared to sweep it under the carpet. We are convinced of that.
Okay, good. In your opinion, could this situation been prevented?
Dr. Vibe, on so many levels at so many points. First of all, that school shouldn't have been reopened. I understand the desperation that made the school decide to do that, because the fact is these young women live in a place of extreme desperation and extreme poverty. Like their parents felt that education was the only way to break them out of the cycle of poverty and violence that they were in. But knowing the risks, that school shouldn't have been reopened. And then today, Amnesty notes that suggests that the government knew about their impending attack at least 4 hours before it actually happened, which corroborates what some of the Chibok families have said, that their neighbors further up had told them that they had seen Boko Haram militants driving in towards the direction of Chibok. Some of them had gotten this information as actually happened, and they had started calling the military contacts that they had. Of course, they didn't know where exactly they were going, but they knew they were heading in their direction. And they had hoped that, being that they had contacts in the military, they had the phone numbers of some of the soldiers, that getting the information to their attention prevented it from happening. But what they said was that nobody picked up their phone calls. These were people they spoke to on a regular basis, but that night, nobody picked up their phone calls. So, I mean, I'm just trying to count the levels. One, the school shouldn't have been reopened. Two, we are hearing that the military had information before the event. Yes, the government is saying that it's not true, and they are probing it and they are investigating, you know. But then when the information broke, we had 3 presidents address the event. 3 whole weeks. 3 whole weeks when these children could have been found. 3 whole weeks. 3 weeks, this is 24 hours, 7 days times 3, where these young women could have been found. I'm sure if they had gone to look, I mean, the parents of these children had to put money together to fuel trucks to drive into the forest themselves with bows and arrows because they were desperate. They were forced to go and confront Boko Haram militants who, even within the government sources, some government officials will tell you that the Boko Haram militants are better armed than the military. Yet these parents were forced because they didn't see any sign that the government intended to actually do anything concrete. They live on the edge of the forest. They didn't see anybody going into the forest. So they knew that their children were getting further and further and further away from them. So they were forced to actually themselves. But when they got into the forest, they were held back by some of the forest communities who told them that, look, this is a suicide mission. You are never going to be able to get your children away from those people. So it's better for you to go home. So some of them said they ran out of fuel. Some of them said they were constrained by, told them that it was a futile plan. So we failed these young women on so many levels. On so many levels.
I just want to make a little bit of a turn for a second. But was there not a detaining or a kidnapping or an abduction of a group of young boys earlier on this year by the same organization?
Yeah, it was a group of young women. It was earlier in the year, and then there was the one with the young men was actually a murder. They killed the young men, about 40 of them who were in school as well. And in that particular occasion, they separated the young men from the young women and asked the young women, and then killed the young men.
That's very sad. It just seems that it's just disappointing and concerning how there's not been more reaction from the Nigerian government. It's taken the international governments of the world to get them even to pay attention. Is there a lack of? Why do you feel the government is not showing more interest and more determination to find these girls?
I don't know. It's perplexing. You know, it's the sort of thing you're wondering, am I the only one who is seeing this? Like I said, the initial narrative from within the government was that it was a con. So they didn't feel there was any need to do anything because they assumed it was a lie. It wasn't true. Despite the fact that the parents of these young women were crying, they were on TV every day crying. Many within government circles, many government supporters, even till today, still say, you know, it didn't happen. So I think that was part of it. Even when the president did address the issue, it was still with almost a sense of it's not my fault, because he tried to blame the parents of the young women by saying that, oh, they've not been cooperating with the police. If have information as to where their children are and haven't given it to the government. It was the same narrative when the First Lady held her meeting where she accused protest leaders and accused the principal of being members of Boko Haram. I mean, the level of disconnect from reality is mind-boggling, but that was it. That's the situation.
It's really what have Nigerians been saying about the reaction of the international governments and around the world? What have they been saying about the reaction from international countries and international governments?
Oh, where a lot of people are very happy that finally the government is being forced to pay attention. Though the government has its ministers on TV insisting that they were already about to send troops to look for the children more than 3 weeks later, but hey, you know.
3
But then, of course,
weeks.
yeah, of course, there are people who uh, we are strange people in many ways because in the early 90s, to give you a little bit of background, in the early 90s, when there were a lot of conflicts on the African continent, Nigeria was probably the strongest uh, military intervention presence in a lot of these countries. So this makes a lot of people feel like, why do we need the intervention of the international community? Why do we need the US sending us specialists? Why do we used to be the ones to send specialists to other countries. We used to be
Sure.
the ones to send peacekeeping forces to other countries. But the fact is that corruption, when I say corruption, please don't tune out, because the fact is, because of the high levels of corruption, as an example, in our budget, security gets 25% vote. Yet we have stories of the soldiers not being properly kitted, of some of them going hungry. I mean, and all of this points to corruption and neglect of the armed forces. So
Right.
yeah, it's a funny situation to be in, to be the one who used to send these things out, but at the point where you need it the most, you find that you don't have the capability or capacity anymore.
What has been the government's explanation to have foreign help? Because you had mentioned in your previous conversation piece that usually it's your country that's sending out special forces to other nations. What reason have they had to have international involvement to try to resolve a situation that's basically in their backyard?
Oh, finally, this is beyond them. It's we had the one of the special advisors to the government on CNN actually a few days ago, and he said that, oh, we have every capacity. We have every capacity to find these people. We have every capacity to um, provide security. Yes, we have accepted the help from the US. Yes, we are accepting the help from the UK. So isn't that a contradiction? The fact that he didn't find any irony in saying, oh, we have every capacity, we have every capability, but yes, we are accepting help from the US. They don't want to admit that these people on their own. So they will say we can, but yes, the US is welcome.
Great. That's fantastic. Are there regular daily protests against the government's lack of action in regards to this story, or Are people finding other ways other than protesting out on the streets to express their anger and concern?
It's still protests. It's still the protests are growing. There are more cities protesting every day. Some of the protests are even happening in Borno State, which is, I don't know how to explain that to you. Borno is the seat of Boko Haram. At a point, Borno was being bombed. Maiduguri was being bombed. But this week, 2 days ago, I think, either on Friday, going to protest, regardless of the risk to themselves. You know, so there are more protests. There are more street protests happening. There are more people ways. People, I mean, artists are is finding their own ways within their communities to keep their voice being heard.
If, from what you're seeing from reaction around the world, are you happy with the international government's reactions, or do you think that the governments could be doing more outside of your country?
No, you know, it's a mixed feeling. I wish we didn't have to need the help, but hey, here it is. I think at the moment, the US and the UK, in terms of what they also are being cautious not to be seen to be taking advantage of the situation, because of course a lot of people believe that because of past situations with the US going into other countries, many people are afraid that inviting the US might be inviting trouble. Mm-hmm. But then the way they are going about it at the moment, not sending combatants, but sending essentially behind the scenes assistance, I'm happy with that. That is fine. It seems to be the British government is planning to do. Hopefully, it doesn't become a situation where everybody wants to come to be seen to have come. You know, we're getting the help, and hopefully we don't need it for long, and we're able to find the girls.
With Boko Haram, have they stated what their objectives are as an organization? And if they have, can you share some of them that you have heard?
Really, the only thing they've said is they want to turn Nigeria into an Islamic state. But I have it doesn't feel like actually an objective. It feels more like just an excuse to cause chaos and anarchy. You know, it doesn't. If you want to, you are killing Muslims and Christians and atheists. You don't care who is on the streets when you are blowing up bus stations in the deep north, where the likelihood of, you know, a Muslim being hit is very high. So it feels more like an excuse, because you know that Nigeria is a country that has as much Muslims as it has Christians. So you know that it is unlikely that you are going to be able to turn the country into a Muslim nation. So what does that say? And what we know of the history of some of the leaders of Boko Haram is that a lot of them are highly educated. They are not illiterate. So many of them are very intelligent. So they know exactly what sort of country they live in. So they know that it is highly unlikely that they are going to turn Nigeria into a wholly Sharia-run Muslim nations. So what that suggests to me that it's just an excuse to cause anarchy and chaos.
Okay. Oh, what? Just thinking here about another conversation piece for the night. What are Nigerians wanting us to do around the world in regards to getting these girls back to where they need to be?
I think for the moment, what we've seen, has been so uplifting and inspiring. People in going on protesting, tweeting, talking about it, making sure it's on the front burner of the news. Because, like I said initially, we are convinced that if that had not happened, the government was prepared to sweep it under the carpet. So what we just want is for people to keep it on the front burner the same way it's been kept over the last week and the last 2 weeks. So the government, don't let them forget. This was what I said yesterday. Don't let them forget. Don't give them the opportunity to forget. Because there's something we say here that Nigerians have a very...
Okay, oh, are you back with us? Oh, we've had a freeze. It's unfortunate. We'll wait and see if we get her back in a few seconds. Ijeoma? Okay, we lost her. Let's see if we can just get her back in a few moments. If we don't get her back in a few moments, we will just wind it down and close off the conversation. But there, you're getting some very good insight from Ijeoma in regards to what has led to this abduction. Oh, I think she's coming back.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes, no problem. Could you just repeat what you were just sharing with us on what Nigerians want us around the world to do to help get these girls back?
No, I was saying that what we've seen so far with people protesting. Yesterday I saw a picture from Afghanistan, which was mind-blowing. What we've seen so far with people protesting and talking and tweeting and keeping it on the front burner has been very helpful. Because, like I said earlier, we are convinced that the government was the carpet. If all of this hadn't happened, if the everyday people hadn't put pressure on their own governments to pay attention, because what has happened is it's not just the international governments themselves didn't just automatically start paying attention.
Okay, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the audio here. Okay, we'll give her another few moments, and again, if we can't get Ijeoma back, we'll certainly wind down the conversation. Yeah, we've lost her again. So again, we'll see if we can get her back one more time. If not, we'll certainly close off our conversation. And sorry, and our apologies on our end again. Digital technology can only do so much, and we are basically going halfway around the world to get this conversation for our audience at the Dr. Vibe Show. So she's given a really good background on what has happened, what is going on currently. Oh, here she comes back again. I love her. She's persistent. She doesn't want to give up. I love it. So yeah, so you're seeing tweets around the world, and you're seeing
not just the protests as well, the street protests, the pictures, all of it. None of it is lost. All of it is helpful, because what I was saying, was that it wasn't just the governments, the international governments themselves didn't just start paying attention. They paid attention because their people paid attention and started talking and started, tweeting and started protesting on the streets. Like I said, we were convinced that the government was going to sweep it under the carpet if all of that had not happened. So that is inspiring. It gives us every day, it gives us, the support that we need to still continue our, so help us to keep it on the front burner every day. Help us to keep talking about it. Help us to, keep talking to your governments, keep talking to your senators, your representatives, wherever they are, to keep putting pressure on the Nigerian government. Left to us, left to
Ijeoma, I just want to ask, the situation with this government, from what you're sharing with us, from what I understand, has been existent for many years. What has made you so passionate and get so involved in regards to this situation with these girls being abducted? Because it sounds like there have been many incidents in regards to this type of scenario in Nigeria. What has made you so passionate about this event?
Because there's still an opportunity to avert some of the things that have happened. From what we've heard, most of these girls are still alive. Like I said before, it's not to take away anything. We still have an opportunity to bring them home. We still have an opportunity to bring them home. I strongly hold on to that hope. It might be naive. It might be because of the time that has passed already. It might be naive, but I still have hope that there's still the opportunity to bring those girls home. There are too many of them. I mean, yesterday, there's a popular roundabout in Lagos called Palomo Roundabout, where we went and placed placards with the names of each of the girls. There were individual placards that had their names on it. Wooden placards with their names on it. There were about 200 of doing that, knocking each one of those placards into the ground with each girl's name, seeing each girl's name. It just made me made my heart so heavy, but it also made me more determined, because each of those girls have value. Each of those girls deserves to be back with their parents. One of the fathers of the girls said his daughter, all she wants to be is a doctor. That's all. All she wants to do is to finish in secondary school and go to university. Her father is a farmer. He's not the richest man in the world, but he's determined to go to do whatever he needed to do to make sure that happened. So I feel like we should give him the opportunity to be able to do that for his daughter. We should give his daughter the opportunity to be able to fulfill her dreams. Aisha, Memuna, Deborah, Naomi. I'm just trying to remember all their names, because seeing all those names just, it hit me, brought it home that these girls, my name is Ijeoma. One of those girls is called Naomi. Naomi is important to her mother. She's important to her father. She's important to her family, her aunts and uncles. She's important to the people who love her. And I want to make sure that I do everything within my power, to push my government to say, don't forget these girls. They are important. They are important to the people who love them. They deserve for us to do everything within our power, to the very last of our ability, to make sure they come home.
Excellent. One final conversation piece probably here. Are you more upset at your government, or are you more upset at Boko Haram?
I've not sorted that out yet in my mind. I've not sorted that out. I think at the moment they share equal blame. At the moment they share equal blame because I feel like Boko Haram has been at this for a while, and as far as I'm concerned, they are beneath contempt because they are, visiting violence on innocent people for no justifiable reason. As far as I'm concerned, they are beneath contempt. They're the very scum of the earth. But then my government was voted in to make sure people like this didn't get the opportunity to do the things that they are doing. That's why they were voted in. So why have they let these people have the opportunity to do this? I mean, I saw the video of their leader, Shekau. You should have seen his arrogance and his confidence, and he was so sure of himself and of the rightness of the evil that he's committing. So I'm angry that my government has allowed this man, who should be behind bars or who should be dead as far as I'm concerned, to be able to be inflicting such violence on Naomi's parents. So yeah, they share equal blame on different levels as far as I'm concerned.
I want to be realistic here. In the best case scenario is that we're going to see all these girls come back alive. But if any of them are harmed, do you feel that the government will do anything? And if any of them are harmed, do you think the people of Nigeria how will they react?
Oh, I don't know. It's a thought I've not allowed myself to
I understand.
Because even getting this girl, need, because some of them have these people. Some of them have 2 daughters. There was one man that said 6 girls from his family, 2 of his daughters and his nieces.
Wow.
By these people. So, and these people are having sleepless nights at the moment. I don't want to contemplate. I mean, I know it might be naive, but I don't want to contemplate the thought that, all these girls will not come home and some of them will be harmed. But I don't know. I just don't know what the government will do, because I don't trust the government as far as with regards to what has happened in the past. How much I trust the government to do what needs to be done to stop this from happening again.
Well, you know what? On that note, we'll end it. And I understand how, and you've certainly conveyed to our audience how passionate you are about this, and I'm sure there are many others in your country that are as passionate as you are about this situation. So, and I know, go ahead.
I'm not a citizen. I'm neither. I'm not one of the people organizing the protest. I just go to the protest wherever it is called. So there are people who are far more passionate than I am.
Well, you're pretty passionate, so if they're even more passionate, that's a good thing. That's a good thing also. We have to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, because you may not see it, but she has some wonderful boys that are not in the background who I had a chance to see earlier on in the day during our conversation, and they want to be on Google Hangouts too, but Mom said no. But I'm sure that their time is going to come also. If people want to follow you on Twitter, how can they do that?
My handle is Ijeoma Ogwuegbu, which is IJEOMAOGUD.
And definitely, I'll have that Twitter handle on the description of this conversation. And again, thank you so much for sharing. We had our technical challenges, but we just stayed the course. You were persistent and consistent wanting to get this through, and certainly we appreciate that. And I'll do my best to get a really good version out to everybody here. It is the Dr. Vibe Show. I'm your host and producer, Dr. Vibe. of the Dr. Vibe Show. Also, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I host a weekly Black Men's Roundtable called Do You Know What Time It Is? You can also catch me out regularly at the Good Men Project. I host monthly Google Hangouts for their premium members and also co-produce them with Marie Roker-Jones. As always, I like to say, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. And also, please support getting these ladies back home. I believe the hashtag is Bring Back Our Girls. Hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. And just do whatever you can, even if it's a tweet or even if it's a retweet. It'll make a difference. Ijeoma is passionate about it. Let's all be passionate, not only for situations like this, but situations like this all around the world. As always, God bless, peace be well, and keep the faith. Bye-bye.